Hello and welcome back to What's Up with Energy. I'm your host, Georgia Knapp, and let's just dive right back into the topic of 14A. I am still joined by our own Nicolai Stickler, GridX's Innovation and Partner Sales Manager.
Hi, Georgia.
Hi. So our last episode was full of a lot of information about paragraph 14A. Now, kind of want to talk a little bit more about what exactly 14A is doing in the German market, how it's impacting the energy landscape. I guess to start us off, if 14A were to play a role in the story of the German energy market, which would it be? Would it be the hero, the villain, the plucky little sidekick that moves the story forward?
Yeah, the hero, obviously. At least at the end. So maybe it's at the beginning of the movie. You're not quite sure, right? It's a little bumpy, and maybe he's the anti-hero, whatever. But at the end, he's the hero, right? Saving the world, or at least the German infrastructure. Yeah, and why? So I guess to implement 14A, which we touched that in the first episode, there's just a lot that must be done. We were talking about different market roles, right? We were saying there is like the DSOs and metering operator, and also there's companies we didn't talk in detail about, but those companies, they are actually producing the hardware, the smart meters, the gateways, and also these other special devices, Steuereinheiten in German, steering devices you need for 14A. So I skipped that in the first part to not make it more complicated. But all of these hardware manufacturers, right, they are producing this very secure stuff, and they have to license that, right? So there is German government bodies. They are saying what you have to fulfill from security perspective, and these hardware manufacturers they have to do these certifications, and they are also part of this whole chain. So looking at that, you could say it's really like it's a long story. It's a little bit bumpy. There's a lot of players. But at the end, 14A is coming out of as a hero together with all the others, I guess.
Nice. And one question that I've actually had around the office now is, so for all of 2024, like when it was January 1st, 2024, we produced our blogs about 14A, social media posts, being like, 14A is here, it's here. But then as we got further into 2024, for some reason, I felt like I was hearing that 14A wouldn't actually go into effect until 2025.
Yeah.
Can you clarify? Like, am I just completely mishearing, or did something happen as soon as it was January 1st, 2025?
Yeah, so I have to admit, I heard that also several times from different people. And every time I was checking again if something was, like something changed, but it didn't.
Okay.
And at least I didn't find any change, right? It started to become into effect 1st of January 2024. What I can imagine is that, in the last episode I explained that the legislator, right, when they finalized this section, right, the amendment, I think it was October or November 2023.
Okay.
So
yeah.
all the industry just had like 4 or 8 or whatever weeks.
Yeah.
Like to now it's in effect, and obviously that doesn't make any sense, right? Because it really takes a lot of time to adapt what I just said, right? You need new hardware, right? You need new processes, IT backends, communication. There is a lot of communication just between different players that has to be standardized and adapted. So there's a lot of stuff you have to take into consideration. So I cannot speak from the experience, but I would assume that it was just, the legislator said, okay, let's do it. So it's done, and everyone has the security that it's there.
Yeah.
And then all the players would start actually doing what I had to do. But as of today, right, it's not like everyone is ready, right? As we touched the topic before with the smart meters, they are still rolling out, or actually rolling out, but they have to increase the speed. So I would just say it's maybe it was important to start it. And now 2025, I think it just sounds for a lot of people, like, okay, there has to happen something. But with regards to 14A, like the legislation itself, it's already live for a year. So
Okay.
what is really coming in 2025, which is then new, is we touched it in the first episode. There is different, like when you get the reduced grid fees, right? I was talking about 150 euros, but I said it could be more. How much you get really depends on your on your consumption, but they call it modules, right? You can select between different modules, 3 of them, and depending on which module you take, you just get more or less money, right? Like the first module, which is the standard one, it just gives you like a lump sum money, $150 on average.
Okay.
And like the other 2 modules, they're a little bit more complicated. And what is coming in 2025 into effect is module 3. So that's really new in 2025. Yeah.
And what is module 3?
Okay. So I said what module 1 is, right? Module 2, let's talk about that, is like that's depends on how much you consume, the more money you get back, right? It's a percentage, a part of like your total consumption. Meaning the more you consume, the higher are your normal grid fees. But it also means if you take module 2, right, they will just take a bigger portion of that away. So that means if you have, let's just say, a heat pump and an EVCS, it might be more lucrative for you to take module 2. If you just have only a car, only an EV, you just take module 1. That depends, right? It's a little bit more complicated. There's calculators on the internet you can use, but that's the difference. And if you take module 3, then there's like another factor coming into like another part of it, which is then like dynamic. I lost the word. Dynamic grid fees. So that's like an additional part, and then you have the possibility to save even more, but it's even more complicated. Let's put it that way.
And in your opinion, I think you were just starting to touch upon it a few minutes ago. How has paragraph 14A been received by energy companies or other stakeholders since its implementation?
So as I said, it's a lot of different roles, right? As I talked to different people, especially last week on this Congress metering days, I would say for the companies that are responsible for grid stability, so the DSOs, TSOs, that's an important tool, right? As always, there might be people saying, there could be, like improvements, whatever, but it's an important tool for them. So that's how I understood them. Then the metering operators, so the companies rolling out the smart meters, there's differences between them, right? But let's just say they have their challenges in rolling out these smart meters. But as I said, 14A is like really pushing the topic. And I also assume that it just gives the law gives stability to them, that it has to really happen now and like be fast. So I believe that's also a good one, right? So maybe with challenges, but still good. And the hardware manufacturers, I guess they're super happy because there's only a few of them. And as I said, they have to do like these certifications, which are very complicated. And, if you like produce something everyone needs and there are not so many, I guess they're happy because they're contributing an important part, but also I guess they're making okayish money from it. So I guess they're also happy. To be honest, the end customers, I just talked to like my like father-in-law and some other people having like their own home, right? For them, it would be relevant. He had no clue, like he talked to an installer, but he had no clue. So it's not like the majority of people, I would assume. That's one example, right? But I also talked to some other people. I'm not sure they're really like aware of it.
That 14A is a topic?
That is a topic. What it means for them, right? Like the good and the bad parts, like bad parts not, but like what it really is for them. I'm pretty sure like the majority, let's just say 95% of people, they don't really know about it. And then there's also a very important part, like the installers, right? So from my understanding is they also have like these two sides, right? On the one side, they have the challenge, right, to explain maybe more to people when they install stuff, right? They just there's more explanation to be done because they are the first touch point, right? So there's someone just in your house doing his thing, and then you can talk to him. But they are, I mean, it's a hard job and they have a lot to do, and maybe they just don't have the time or sometimes the means to explain in detail this stuff. At the same time, obviously, they also see that if you then like sell additional hardware, like an EMS, for example, taking care of all this 14A stuff is also for them an opportunity to, like upsell something and give their end customers more value, which is then a good part. So I guess they have like these both sides in their role. Yeah, I would say those are the most important roles and how they could feel about 14A.
Yeah.
Yeah, my interpretation at least.
And how does an energy management system fit into all of this?
Yeah, so we touched that in the last episode, right? I can go into detail again. So it's really an important puzzle piece. So the 14A and all of what it's doing, right, or what I said is needed to 14A to work is really digitizing everything, right? And as I said, there's different ways of connecting these assets to the smart meter or the steering device, what it's called. But this like connecting everything directly, right? Let's just say it's an old way of doing it. It works, right? And people like know how to implement it, but it's really not. You could say it's not really future proof, right? It's what an EMS is, right? Because you can just update it, right? So if there's new use cases coming up, you can just, it's software based, right? You can just say, okay, there's new functionality to it.
Sorry, you say the EMS is not future proof or 14A is not future proof?
No, I'm sorry. What I said is, like I was explaining last time, that there's different ways of connecting the assets to the smart meter infrastructure, right? And one way is like connecting them directly, just like with a wire.
Got it.
And a wire you can update, right? So it's just there, and it's let's say it's stupid, right?
Yeah.
So in a way, and like an EMS, it just has a lot of intelligence, and it's also getting smarter. Let's put it that way. So that is what I mean by future-proof.
Got it.
Making it an important puzzle piece. Yeah.
Okay. And then from a regulations standpoint, because Germany is the only country in Europe doing something like 14A with the controlled dimming?
Last time I checked, it is currently the only one doing it that way. So what I know is, I think there is in Slovenia and also in the Netherlands, there is discussions ongoing, right, regarding, but I have to admit, like all the different countries and the legislative processes, it's hard to follow everything at the same time. So maybe while we talk, there is already something going on. But last time I checked, it's really like 14A is currently a very specific thing for Germany. But we foresee that this is going to come or might like come into effect in maybe comparable ways in other countries when the countries see that it's working. Because the topic of just grid congestion, right, is just in several countries a thing, at least as I said, also in the Netherlands, because you have a lot of, there's just a lot of people having PV and stuff. And electric vehicles, and so yeah.
And then, so looking ahead, in your opinion, what are the next steps in the evolution of energy market regulations in Germany and in Europe as a whole in light of paragraph 14A? Let's start in Germany. So there is currently ongoing an amendment, Novelle of ENVG, EEG, and MSBG, so different like laws touching all of these parts which are important, and they are currently, let's say, on hold, right? Because the German government just has fallen into pieces, and we're looking for a new vote next year. And until then, it's not really clear if these like amendments are passing, right?
and coming into effect already this year or maybe then next year, hopefully latest next year, which is still not good because it costs a lot of time. Yeah, but just let's say the new legislator will then pass it finally, and let's just pick some important things out of these new amendments. So one part is, as I said, if for 14A, right, like to make the whole process work, you need these smart meters and special devices, and the companies installing them, right. Some of these companies are regulated. They can only ask for a specific amount of money if you install it. So let's just say there is coming someone to your home, right, installing, and he can only charge, let's say, 60 euros, whatever. And that makes it let's say, there is a lot of cost pressure on these companies, which is then a potential blocker for rolling out this hardware, but we need it. And so this new law is actually saying they get more money. Not maybe like what I wanted, but a little bit more, which is, I would say, a good thing from like looking at the bigger picture, right? There's also critics, but that's a part of it. So it's like price caps, what I mean. They increase the price caps. And then also something which is important is so in Germany we have a lot of PV, right, installed on rooftops. And we also have PV on a field, right? Bigger ones.
Yes.
And the bigger ones and the smaller ones, they, let's say, have different things they have to comply to, right? And this new laws, some of them, they are touching a very specific point. They say every PV bigger than 2 kilowatt peaks, so really like everything that is not a balcony, right?
Okay.
PV, everything that's bigger, so basically everything, right? Must also be like, in German you say sichtbar und steuerbar, meaning the DSO must be able to steer this, right? So they must be able to switch it off. Why is that important? Because we have so much of installed capacity that if there is a sunny and windy day, like next year in summer, for example, where people are not working, right? Like their Easter holidays are the prime example for that. We have so much installed capacity that all these PV, right? And the biggest part of the PV, I think 2/3 of it or something like that, they are, as of today, not steerable. They will just produce energy and push it into the grid. And if you don't draw this from the grid, right? Well, then you destabilize it, which is a problem.
Yeah.
And there is things we can do against it, but all the levers we have, they cost a lot of money, right? So there's things the DSOs and TSO can do, but it costs a lot of money. And so you could ask if it makes sense that all of these devices, right, the PV is just producing without anyone using it. And that's why this law is also touching that point and saying all of these new installed PVs, bigger than 2 kilowatt peak, should also be steerable. Which from my point of view makes absolutely sense, right? And there's also other big players in the market, like NPAL, 1,5, or like flexibility providers like FlexPower. They're all like pushing into this direction, as the legislator is doing, and they are looking forward to this, right?
Yeah.
And if I remember correctly, someone from the Bundesnetzagentur, they're also pushing to the same direction, which makes sense. So I guess it's a very big, important part. And that's something that might come up soon.
And then how do you think this might evolve the European energy market?
Yeah, now it gets complicated. So, I mean, I can't really say. What I imagine is that, like the different European players, they hopefully, right, they look at comparable, like countries have different parameters, right? So like, for example, in France, they have a lot of nuclear power, right? It's just things are working a little bit differently there for some parameters. I hope that they try to learn from each other, and that maybe one country that is more progressive in a way, right, can then maybe adapt something from another one. But if really on a European level something like that is regulated, I mean, there is things like the EU Data Act or stuff which is also influencing us as an energy industry. But something like what I just said about the PV feed in and how that is legislated. I'm not sure if that is something that just countries do by themselves, right? I have to admit, that's we have. I mean, we have a lawyer for that, right? So we maybe can ask her next time.
Maybe that should be the next like podcast season.
Yeah,
is
why
just
not?
interviewing
Yeah.
our lawyer. I mean, I think this kind of wraps up the season of 14A, at least between you and myself. I'll be talking with someone from PPC,
Nice.
for the next episode. But I guess before we get into my next round of rapid fire questions, what if you could summarize like the one takeaway you would want a listener to get from this season? What would that be about paragraph 14A specifically?
So I would want them to take away that 14A is a good thing, right? So not only on a like a countrywide level, right, but also on an individual, personal level, because it is nothing to be like to be afraid of, but rather embrace it. It's not gonna influence like anything what you were saying, like your lights or whatever, but it's actually only relevant for specific devices. And to make this as easy for the end customer as possible, right? There's companies offering like a good offering, right? Covering that, and they should also always like look at the benefits they have, right? They're allowed to install what I wanted to install, and they get reduced grid fees. So I guess that's from an end customer perspective, two very positive aspects. So yeah, that's what I would want them to take with them.
It sounds like that there's nothing but benefits from 14A.
So
Just need to spread the word though, because like
Yeah.
you said, you've talked to people who haven't heard of 14A. I have also talked to my friend group about this for about a year and a half, and no one knows what I'm talking about.
yeah, maybe it's also because I mean, if you live in an apartment, right? It's maybe less. You have more touch points if you live in your own house, maybe.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I don't have one, so maybe my friends don't. So that's maybe also why my feedback was they were not so much aware. So that can be different, obviously, for others.
Yeah, same. All right, are you ready for your next round of rapid fire questions?
Absolutely not.
These are a little bit more, a few are more 14A specific. Just keep that in your mind. If 14A were a character in a movie, who would it be?
The hero.
But I guess I meant who, like Iron Man, Mr. Darcy,
Thor.
Thor.
Yeah.
Thor. All right. Controlled charging, love it or hate it?
Love it.
What's one unexpected industry that could benefit from 14A?
Hardware manufacturers of these assets, like
Yeah.
Oh.
Vice versa or bratwurst?
say again.
Vice versa or bratwurst?
Vice versa, bratwurst. What do you mean?
Aren't they two different sausages?
Weißwurst or Bratwurst, yeah.
Ach, wow.
Come on, that is what I said.
I'm sorry. I understood vice versa, Bratwurst. Weißwurst or Bratwurst.
White sausage or the normal one?
The normal one.
The normal.
I'm not from Bavaria, I can say it.
Okay. Should we prioritize residential flexibility or grid stability?
That has to work together.
Okay. When you want to know what's going on in the energy industry, where do you go?
LinkedIn.
Amazing. What is the most energy efficient thing in your home?
My feet.
What energy problem would you solve if you had unlimited funding?
Yeah, I mean, production in the end. No, you can't say it. It's a system. Let's just say it's the production, right?
And then, if 14A had a theme song, what would it be?
Do you know, like, I can't do it, but do you know, like, Paulchen Panther?
Who?
Yeah, maybe it's not German.
Pink Panther?
Pink Panther, sorry. Yeah.
Ah.
Yeah. Because I have to think of that situation where the panther and the other guy are like painting a column, right?
Yeah.
But they like doing it in this way. Like,
they're like kind of, they're both painting
they're
the
going in
column and
circles,
they're,
right?
Yeah, painting over.
Yeah, and
the
it just remembers me of, because as I said, there's so many people involved in this, right? It just like sometimes it felt like someone was waiting for the other one, and that's like a whatever, like one of these circles. But I don't know the theme song, so
I like that.
yeah.
No, the one that came to my mind was "You Can't Stop the Beat" from Hairspray.
Ooh, damn it, that's better, way better. Let's take your answer, please. Cut my way.
No, I like yours. All right. Well, thanks so much, Nicolai. This has been honestly a more lively topic than I expected when talking about German regulation.
Yeah, me too. That was a lot of fun. Thank you very much.
Right. If you'd like to learn more about the world of renewable energy or energy management systems, be sure to check out our website, gridx.ai, where we produce regular blogs and glossaries about the subject. You can also follow us on LinkedIn or on Twitter and Instagram at GetGridX.